Department of Correctional Services has launched Operation Vala, which is aimed at tightening security measures within the country's 248 correctional centers. It's also aimed at preventing festive season related escapes and assaults. ENCA's Govan Whittles has been covering that story and joins me now from our newsroom. And so, Govan, I suppose if you try and make sense of, the concerns of correctional services around this time, one could say some of the prisoners are really desperate to spend some time with their families, and escapes do hike. Is that the reasoning behind this operation?
Yeah, Tulas, that's definitely one of the reasons that was given by the correctional services officials today. It seems around this time of the year the prisoners tend to take chances, they said, and this often leads to escape attempts. And so they've launched this Operation Vala. This operation has been coming on for 9 years now, launched in 2009, just as President Jacob Zuma took over leadership of the country. And it was aimed at trying to tighten the control around the festive season. This is the time when not only do the prisoners try to escape, but there's also an increased attempts of assault and also assaults on guards and also inter-assaults within the prisoners as they try to gain a higher rank in the gang. So essentially this is the time of the year when the emergency security team of the Department of Correctional Service is at its busiest. So today we saw the official launch of Operation Vala, and they'll attempt to repeat what they achieved last year, which was no escapes during the season, which is from the 3rd of December up to January. So they'll hope to make it 2 in a row, but of course it's been a dodgy track record over the years, and they're only now starting to build on that momentum from last year.
And I also imagine that, Govan, that a lot of people are looking forward to the festive season, particularly people who are employed, thinking, hey, we can take things easy and sort of fill in our leave forms and take some time off to be with family. But I would imagine that this Operation Vala has different implications for people who work in correctional centers, right?
Quite right. In fact, throughout this festive season, the emergency security team, which I referenced, is on standby 24/7 at all the centers around the country. Just to put it into perspective, this team is the one that's responsible for responding to assaults, and they're also responsible for going into the cells to get rid of contraband. So they're often on the front lines when it comes to fighting with the inmates, especially when the inmates target them to achieve a higher rank in their gang for a stabbing or different kind of assault. So during the year, this is what these men are facing on a daily basis. And now they say that this is their busiest time of the year because this is when they think that the inmates are taking even more chances. But of course, even though that this emergency security team will be on standby throughout the festive season, the rest of the Department of Correctional Services staff also need to up their ante because this is the busiest time of the year for them. So certainly, as you said, while the rest of us are trying to plan a holiday, the inmates at the centers across the country seem to be trying to plan an escape, and the correctional services staff have to plan a way to stop them.
Other than the emergency team that's always on standby, what are the other details of this Operation Vala? What else are they going to do to prevent escapes?
Well, essentially, this just the operation to prevent escapes includes placing the standby unit, placing the security unit on standby 24/7, but also being more vigilant with the more frequent searches at the prisons. There'll also be stricter controls around the festive season visits as the inmates receive their visitors. It's just in order to make sure that there's not increased smuggling of contraband, and the number of assaults don't go up. But also, what the Deputy Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Thabang Makwetla, was saying is that this is the time of the year when they need to address the corruption within the Department of Correctional Services. He spoke today and was very passionate when speaking about the corruption which is systemic in society, he says, which is leaked into the Department of Correctional Services, and pointing out that even of all the 50 attempted escapes that happened over the last 10 months, none of those were planned solely by the inmates. They always were planned in conjunction with some or other corrupt official at the Department of Correctional Services. So that would be one of their focus points for this festive season, and how they hope to maintain that momentum and achieve what they had last year, which was no escapes during this time.
All right, thank you so much for that. That's ENCA's Govan Whittles.